So, we love superheroes,
And we love co-op games.
and we've got 2 titles coming up that are giving us both.
But we might be a little bit more excited about one than we are with the other.
Yeah, let's get into why.
Hey,
I'm Phil,
I'm Miles.
and we're Tactile TK,
And today's topic, Gotham Knights by WB Montreal.
versus Marvel's Avengers from Crystal Dynamics. So, Miles, what's the hype level for this?
Oh gosh. Well, Gotham Knights over everything at this point. I'm so excited for Gotham Knights. Yeah, what do you feel about Marvel's Avengers?
It's strange. Marvel's Avengers is coming out, like, I think next week by the time we're recording this video,
Yeah.
and I don't have excitement for it. I know I'm going to play it. I'm interested in it, but, like, I'm just not hype, and I don't quite understand why. I think I'm starting to figure it out, but yeah, definitely Gotham Knights. Gotham Knights, just from the gameplay trailer and the story trailer, they had me hooked.
Oh yeah. I think the biggest thing I think for both of us is we're both fans of both universes. Obviously, we
Yes.
love superheroes, but as you can see, with like all of we're literally in Gotham right now, and with just all of our profile icons and stuff, we're really have our heart set on DC Universe. We just love it, and we just love those characters. I think far more. We grew up with those characters.
Yeah.
And it's just an easier sell that way. So like that's like the biggest obvious thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty surface level. Like, obviously, yeah, we're more into DC than Marvel. We're huge Batman fans, so you know we've been wanting a co-op Batman title since the Arkham games came out. Since I've been wanting it since like forever, but also Arkham Asylum was like the first good Batman game, and so I remember since then being like, would it be cool to be able to play as Robin as well, or Nightwing or somebody. So yeah, we're DC heads for sure, but we're also gamers at heart. And like, if a game's good enough, we're gonna be interested. Like, it doesn't have to be a superhero property. Like, it could be whatever. And a good co-op game is hard to come by. So why are we not hyped for Marvel's Avengers? And I feel like that comes down to a couple of key factors. And one of the biggest things for me right now is the gameplay. I've been noticing the differences between the gameplay, and what Marvel's Avengers presents is a co-op game that's very much, here's your single player story experience, where you're gonna get all the story and all the character stuff coming to life, and then over here is your co-op experience where you can just get together with mates and just play through sessions, play through individual missions that are just kind of beat 'em ups.
They're very separate.
Yeah,
They're very separated from each other.
Yeah, and we both love games that incorporate the co-op into the main story. So we've played Resident Evil 5 and 6, for example. We grew up on the Sonic the Hedgehog games where you could play as Tails, and like the main campaign is interwoven with the co-op, and it just makes for a richer, more full experience. I know there's some people that are going to fight me on that. There are people that are definitely against that mentality. They think co-op ruins games, but we love it when the co-op, when you can really take on the story with your best friend.
Yeah.
You know? And that's, I mean, literally right now on our Twitch channel, we're playing through Beyond Two Souls. And that's a great example of a good co-op title that has both players making decisions that impact the story.
Yes.
And it's so gratifying, and it's exciting because even when you're not in control, even when you're not the one making the key decision, you know, your friend, your brother, whoever is doing that, and you're just like, whoa, this is, I don't know where this is going to go. It's really a collaboration at that point. You really feel like you're achieving something together. And that's what Gotham Knights presented in their trailers. They really made it clear that you can play the whole game single player if you want to, but it's drop in, drop out co-op, and you can play the whole story together. And it's an open world. You know, Avengers is very mission based, and to be fair, they are playing to their strengths, because technically in the comics, Avengers usually get together for a major threat and then hop in a Quinjet and go somewhere and handle it.
Yeah.
They're not really patrolling the city like the Ninja Turtles or like Batman and Robin or, you know, whatever. So technically it shouldn't be a negative, it shouldn't be a minus, but from a gameplay standpoint, it kind of is. I would have loved an open world Avengers game, even if it didn't make literal sense. But, you know, I think that the Gotham Knights model is just it's true to Batman, patrolling the city, looking for trouble, and there's always something going on. And it just makes the world come to life a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, just immediately being put back into Arkham City brought me immediately back, of course, to the Arkham games. Because, like, while they're not connected, as we've kind of did some digging, and just realized that they're not connected universes, even like some of the events that happen in both of the franchises are similar, as in, like, spoiler alert, Batman eventually is presumed dead.
Right.
You really get a sense of, like, the city and all that, and it's not just like going to separate places, which is still, again, really cool.
Yeah.
Like, I think a good example of that is like the Final Fantasy games, where you spend a lot of time in this one area, but you can also go into another area. Whereas in Gotham, it's all Gotham, and it's still huge. Like, I'm sure there are still aspects of or parts or areas in both Arkham City for sure and then Arkham Knight that I have not even explored or seen. And just being able to do that with somebody is just awesome, I guess.
Yeah, and to be fair to what Crystal Dynamics is doing with Avengers, they do give you pretty big playgrounds in their mission modes. Like, it's not like some of them are confined, but a lot of them give you a pretty expansive area to search through and explore with your friends. So I appreciate what they're doing there, but it's just a different mentality in game development, and it's just a different experience. But the other big thing that I think is holding back what the Marvel's Avengers game is up against is, that sentence made no sense, but fuck it. What's holding it back is perception and comparison. Like, we just got over a decade of Marvel films.
Yeah.
These really in-depth storylines with really top-notch acting and writing, and just we've gotten really attached to those versions of those characters.
Yes.
Like, specifically for me, I could give a fuck about Thor. In the comics, I just had never cared about Thor, but in the movies, oh my god, Chris Hemsworth's Thor is one of the most compelling characters on screen.
Yes.
And I am super attached to those versions of those characters, and to get a game that kind of sort of looks like that, but doesn't quite, and starting over with a new continuity, it's a tall order.
It is a very, very strange adjustment. Like, I felt this way after, I mean, this is another Batman example, but like the Batman animated series probably had some of the best versions of those characters, at least in animation, that I'd ever seen ever before. Like, Kevin Conroy did such a fantastic job, as well as Mark Hamill. And it's kind of like trying to figure out how you navigate a world where they're not those characters.
Right.
And that's automatically, like, just really, it's really hard. And it sucks, because that shouldn't take away from, like, a good game or a good story within itself. But it does. It's, like, hard to not make that comparison.
Absolutely. And it's absolutely why the Arkham games cheated and totally casted those guys.
Right, yeah. So, of course you're going to love it.
Right. So, and I love the voice talent they have for Marvel's Avengers. We're talking Nolan North, Laura Bailey, we're talking about, those classic voice actors who, we've Travis Willingham, that we've seen forever in anime and video games and cartoons. Like, they're top-notch voice talent. They did not spare the expense in hiring their actors, but and I'm welcome to their interpretations. It's a new continuity, and the story they're presenting us with, and I'm assuming there's stuff they just don't want to spoil yet. I hope there's some surprises for us. But the story they're presenting is the Avengers come apart, and Kamala Khan has to put them back together. And unfortunately, on screen, we've already seen the epic story of the Avengers coming apart and having to find their way back to each other. And it was really emotional, and it was really powerful. To see that sort of type of story again is just sort of like, okay, but what do you got? Like, what else you got?
Yeah, it's definitely been, like, overhyped at this point, because coming off of, and I feel like this way about like a lot of the Marvel movies that are coming out in the future that have been announced. It's so overhyped at this point, because we were left with such a really good closure for a lot of those characters with Endgame and Infinity War and all that, and it was just incredible. Not to just be like, the wound isn't even, it's still so fresh and so open, and now this game is coming out, and with similar storylines and different voice actors and stuff. It's again a weird adjustment, but the wound is still so fresh. If you've been paying attention to the news announcements about this game and about DLC that's coming out, one of the biggest things going into, I immediately thought when this game was announced was, is this gonna be connected to the Spider-Man game that just came out on PS4? Because, I mean, even in the game, if you don't know, you can go to certain parts of New York City and you can find little nods to like the Marvel universe. There's a Jessica Jones place, there's a Matt Murdock place. There's the Avengers Tower, which is probably the one thing that really was pointed out, obviously, for anybody who was a Marvel fan.
Yeah, even Spider-Man even makes a note that they're on the West Coast right now, which is totally what's happening in the Avengers game.
Yeah. Marvel Spider-Man was probably the best game that I had played ever that year. It was incredible. It took everything from that you loved from the previous PlayStation 2 version, which had Tobey Maguire in it.
Yes.
And that's noteworthy because the person who played it in the movie usually doesn't reprise their role in the game.
Right.
It wasn't a common thing. And that was a big thing about it. Just swinging through New York City was just amazing. It just took everything that we loved about the PS2 one and expanded on it and created a bigger world and a somewhat connected universe with like the movies, because there's all those mentions of like how he he stops the train and all of that stuff. Like it was just by far the perfect game.
It was. They took from all the Spider-Man lore, comics, movies, animated series, like anything you can think of where you've seen Spider-Man, there's little nods and Easter eggs and elements woven in. And they still put their own spin on it, and they told an epic story. If you have not played that game, please do.
It's amazing.
But what we're getting at is the news has been that despite all of that, for whatever reason, Crystal Dynamics has decided they're going to include Spider-Man in Avengers post-launch, but it's not connected. It's their own version, and I get it. You're a development studio. You want to do your own thing, but it was just such a missed opportunity to do a connected universe in video games, which we really haven't gotten.
Yeah.
I don't think a whole lot of before. So it would have been really neat to see this like crossover. It would have been great to have Yuri Lowenthal back as the voice of Spider-Man.
So good.
He's so great, and it would have been a huge selling point if that Spider-Man was connected to this version of Avengers, but they're not. So that kind of bummed us out a little bit. Which is ironic because on the other end of that, you've got Gotham Knights, and they're totally not in the Arkham universe whatsoever. And yet we're still psyched for that.
Yeah.
Again, I think even as iconic as the Arkham games is, I think there's a certain amount of closure to that story. And maybe that's why it's easier to just detach and say, like, they're doing a new thing now. But also, the game just seems to offer a lot of other elements in their storytelling and the gameplay that just really speaks to us as gamers. And I think that's making up for the fact that it's not connected to anything we've seen before. Plus, it's just giving us content we haven't gotten before with characters we don't usually get to play with a whole lot in the video game world. So, I don't know. But to sum it all up, I really do feel like they're both interesting games, and we are not knocking Marvel's Avengers at all. Like, we both pre-ordered it.
Yeah.
We're gonna play it. You're probably gonna see it on our Twitch channel at some point in some way. If not, at least you're gonna get some sort of impression or review from us on here at some point as well. And yeah, I have played a little bit of Marvel's Avengers for the open beta. I played with our older brother, and it was a blast. For what it is, it was a really fun time just to get together and chat with your friends and go kick some ass. So I'm curious to see what else it can offer from a gameplay experience. But yeah, definitely we're on that hype train for Gotham Knights, and 2021 can't get here soon enough for a lot of reasons. But that's definitely one of the happier reasons we're looking forward to that year.
We want to thank you guys so much for tuning in to the end of this video. If you at all enjoyed the content, please like and subscribe, and be sure to hit that bell notification so you can be notified for the next time we release a video.
Also, you can find us on Twitch Monday through Saturday at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern Time, depending on the night. You can find a link to our Twitch and our socials in the description below. And as always,
please take care of yourselves.
Get that good rest.
And until next time.